Canada, I had access to a lot of gear. I'd collected a lot of gear over time myself, plus there's a music space I was involved in that had a lot of equipment as well. The decision to move to Japan was not easy. Uprooting where you live and moving to another country is difficult, no matter how you look at it. The first month of traveling to Asia, I went to Thailand. I wanted to train and I wanted to fight. And playing guitar wasn't massively in my head. About a month in, I needed to buy a guitar. So I bought a cheap $100 guitar and I just strummed on that. I didn't have an amp. I just played it so I had something to keep my fingers busy. While I was there, I made a lot of friends. And I met my fiance. I also traveled a lot of Asia outside of that. While I was traveling, I had headphones in my ears. And in my ears a lot of the times was Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness. I was trying to figure out, how am I going to make a video about this sound? I didn't know where to start. I like making YouTube videos. I've liked making YouTube videos for a long time. Before the pandemic, I used to make car videos. And when I was separated from everything I had to do that, I started making guitar videos just for fun, as a way to keep myself occupied, an excuse to make videos, and a reason to play guitar. So about a month into traveling, I needed to be able to play. So I bought a guitar and I just started strumming. But I missed making videos as well. I brought my camera with me, but I hadn't been using it much. So I set up and decided to do a cover using plugins. Recording through software was a revelation for me. Many people had been doing it for years, but me being a bit older, growing up with tube amps and pedals, I was very much stuck under that mindset. I'd accepted impulse responses, although I still think a microphone is better. I came up with a way to record covers. The Today cover was recorded directly into this camera. I took a cable from the guitar, went into the microphone input, and I just recorded while playing along to Today. I took the audio out of my camera, I dropped it into my DAW, and then I used plugins to try and approximate the Siamese Dream sound. My first attempt at it was not great, but it was okay and it worked. And it meant I could play and record and make videos still. Plugins have gotten incredible. Initially, I was a little bit apprehensive about approaching the Mellon Collie and the Infinite Sadness sound. It's a very dense album. It has many layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. It's one of those albums where you have to listen really close to find the little things hidden in the background. And that's not the kind of stuff I'm worried about today. I want to worry about the guitar tone. So when I decided to approach the Mellon Collie sound, obviously I don't have a lot of gear here. I have my red Strat, which is an Eric Johnson Stratocaster with its stock pickups, which is just Strat pickups. I have my modified JCM 900, and I have some of my pedals. And those don't really help for Mellon Collie. So the only way I could try and clone that sound was plugging my red guitar into my interface. Now, the thing that makes this possible is the JMP Pro plugin by Nembrini Audio. This plugin's wild. It's essentially a JMP preamp in a plugin format. It also has a power amp and speaker simulator built into it. Now, it's the wrong power amp for Mellon Collie, and I don't think it's the right speaker cab either. But regardless of that, it gets extremely close. Extremely close. A little bit of EQ fixes anything that's really missing. It sounds extremely close. Clearly I'm using a guitar with single coil pickups in it, and a single coil bridge pickup does not sound like a humbucker, and it certainly doesn't sound like a red lace sensor, but it's really close. For all these tracks, all I used was the JMP Pro. The main thing that differed between these tracks was whether I was boosting it or not and what I was boosting with. I used 3 different things to boost the JMP Pro. Firstly, I used the built-in fuzz that's built into Logic as part of the pedal board. Second, I used a compressor from that same board. I don't have an Alesis 3630. I don't know of any Alesis 3630 compressor plugins, so that was the easiest one to configure, and it sounded relatively close. The Bullet-esque sound, I had the compressor running on the pedal board. That's a very compressed, clean sound that's used for the verses on Bullet with Butterfly Wings. The Here Is No Why-esque sound and the Muzzle-esque sound, they're both really similar. The only difference is there's a bit more mid-range on Here Is No Why. Lastly, I used the Nembrini Fuzz Pedal plugin. It is a plugin of the Big Muff, and it's the best one I've come across. I wish I'd known about it before filming the Siamese Dream plugin video, because it's absolutely excellent, and it's free. I'd highly recommend going and taking a look at that. Now, for the Jelly Belly and Through the Eyes of Ruby clips, I double tracked that, but not by re-recording. I just duplicated the waveform and then changed what plugins I was running. On the left side, I used the Nembrini Fuzz plugin. On the right side, I used the same fuzz plugin I used for the Zero clip, the one that's built into the pedal board. That one, I have the gain set extremely low. In fact, it's pretty much all the way down. The other controls are set at noon, and that acted as a perfect boost for getting the Zero sound with the JMP Pro. For the clean section on that Through the Eyes of Ruby-esque type clip, I used the Phase 3 plugin, the same plugin I used for the Siamese Dream sounds. I find you have to set it relatively wild to get it to have any sort of a real noticeable phaser effect, but it does a good job. And speaking of the clean sound, that is the only instance of the JMP plugin that I had set to one of the clean channels. The rest of them were all set to OD1. Now, the other major difference is, as I mentioned before, it doesn't have the same power amp, and I don't think it has the same speakers that would have been used on Mellon Collie. To make up for that, I used the equalizers. Now, I used 3 different equalizers on this track. I used 2 UAD plugins that kind of add a flavor that I really like, and it seemed to lend towards the Mellon Collie sound. Then I also used the default Logic equalizer. I used that to take out a bunch of upper mid-range around 4K. Aside from that, I applied the Logic mastering plugin just to make sure the levels were nice and even for putting this into a video, and that was it. All considering, I think that's extremely close to the Mellon Collie sound, and that's all with plugins. That's just a guitar going straight into the interface. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.
Are you happy now? Are you happy now? Why did Corgis have such